go.
Every time I watch the footage of the live stream, I'm just like, ugh, take me back.
Yeah, it had to have been fun to test. That'd have been a good time.
There's so much good stuff coming up too that I would love to go into conversation about, but we're just waiting on Intrepid.
Yeah. There we go. Well, the nice part is this month flew by pretty quickly, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
January felt like it kind of drug on for a bit, but now I blinked and February's gone.
Yeah.
All right. Else, you good to go?
I am good. Welcome in, everybody.
Welcome on in here. Let me make sure I can see chat. There we go.
Got over here.
Anton, how you doing? Sawman, how you doing, buddy? He said, leave a like if you think we need PvE servers. Or, if you don't agree with that, you can agree as well.
Keep fighting the good fight, man. We'll get it.
Here, if I do that, that doesn't work. So here, 1 second. There we go. All right. Okay. Let's minimize that. And that.
All right.
All right, chat. Sorry, just making sure we got everything good to go. All right. Richie, how you doing? Virus, Warrior with the dislike. Mateo, how you doing? Dogly, how you doing? Dogly, if you guys didn't know, is the leader of the Dwarf Guild. We'll have him on sometime next month. We got Crackers in here. MF. I probably should say the whole name before that's clipped out of context. Lolly, how you doing? This is Ashes of Creation. We're pretending to play it. Yellow names on the yellow background. Good choice. Oh, stop. Why is it yellow today? That's weird. All right. How you doing, Roka? Welcome on in. Blue, how you doing? All right. So let's go ahead and turn the music down and get into some discussion. So what episode is this? 30? I actually didn't put in the title today. I think it's 35, right?
35.
35, you guys. All right.
Nice.
So welcome to another episode of the Ashes of Creation Voices of Vera live stream podcast with myself, Nice Gaming. Is there no one else? And you, the Voices of Vera. We have a special guest today. We have the guild leader of a hardcore PvP Ashes of Creation guild known as Enveus, and we are joined by their guild leader, the infamous DA. How you doing, my guy?
Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm doing great, man. I'm ready for some Ashes. I'm excited for things to come, and it's very close. We're right around the corner.
We're right there. So close. So close. So we have a lot to discuss today. With everything around revolving around running a guild and everything like that. Else, any introductions or anything?
No, I wanted to, so here's my point of view. I'm just going to lay it all out here for you, DA. We're going to grill you with as many questions as possible to see if we can get you to violate your NDA for Ashes of Creation on here. So the more we can get you, the more we can get you talking, the more we can get a potential leak here. So I'm just playing, of course, but no, I'm excited to talk to you. Talked to you a little bit on the side a couple of weeks ago on a podcast, and so I thought it'd be fun to have another one and just get your thoughts overall of so far what brought you into the game and your overall first impressions after having been testing so far.
Yeah. So yeah, to start off, what brought me to the game? I mean, early on, I played pretty much. I've played almost every MMO, and it don't matter Korean, Chinese, Western. I love MMOs. I was previously playing another MMO going through ESO, Final Fantasy 14, competitive like hardcore rating in there, and a couple different other titles. And I was really just looking for a PvX MMO. I did some YouTubing. I found an old video from like Proxy and It Is, two very old content creators. I know they don't do content anymore for Ashes, but I ended up stumbling upon the Kickstarter, backing that Kickstarter, and here we are, 7 years later, waiting for this MMO. I ended up starting the guild. Excuse me. Ended up starting our guild around like 9-10 years ago,
Okay.
through just other various games. I was in a weird situation where the guild leader of this guild that I was in, we were just doing with some progressive rating, and he got mad that his wife couldn't keep up with mechanics, and so he basically told everybody in the guild that nobody's rating unless we bring his wife with us. And so I just left the guild, and a bunch of people ended up coming with me, and we ended up just kind of building from there, playing other different MMO titles throughout the years, through everything from New World and Bless and so on and so forth. But we're here for Ashes, and we can't wait to hit the ground running.
Sure. Very cool.
Sawman had the first question of the stream. He says, "What does DA stand for?"
DA is an acronym for one of my old characters. It was Drex Armada, I believe. I was playing a game, and the game had I was playing. Actually, I can't remember which game I was playing. I was playing this game, and it was a very pay to win game, and they had a bunch of like side discords for different things, like different tools that you can use for like parsing or other different means. And I didn't want my name that I was using, my character, to be in that Discord, so I just changed it to DA, and it kind of just stuck ever since.
Nice. Okay. So let's talk about what everyone's wondering. The hot topic. How do you feel about caravan attackers needing risk? Okay, maybe we don't need to keep going down that down that dark path. I think we're kind of all have the same take, so to speak, as far as that conversation goes. So I'm gonna bring up an image here shortly. But first, I want you to go ahead and discuss your guild. Before we get into anything, discuss your guild. What are you guys' approaches, ideologies, mindsets? And then if you want, you can kind of branch onto what your plans are for Alpha 2, how you want to run if you became mayor of a node, but how do you want to run your guild? What is your mindset? What is the reputation that you are seeking? What's your goals as far as, dominating the server or whatever else?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we want to foster a competitive, non-toxic environment that people who want to experience pretty much everything that Ashes has to offer. In an organized setting, well, we want to strive to be one of those competitive forces for whatever server that we go on to. We obviously have plans to go after like guild castles, participate in guild wars, have pre-set up teams for arenas, heavy in the economy, in any progressive rating that goes on as well. We enjoy every aspect of this game. A lot of us have played different, PvX MMOs. Arcade being one of the more recent ones. And I mean, in that game, you have to do everything. You have to make money. You have to participate in the economy because you have to keep up with your gear upkeep and whatnot. You have to do PvE. You have to do be a part of that living, breathing world. And I think that really makes for a great MMO. So, like I said, we just want to create a real competitive environment for that people who want to strive for going after the top end content, participating in those high level sieges, the node wars, the castle wars, castle wars. Just like I said, have a non toxic place to participate in that. I know a lot of times when you get into some of the high end competitive scenes, things become if you've ever played an MMO, you know the level of toxicity that gets to,
Oh yeah.
and we very much like to keep that outside of our home. We enjoy watching it from the sidelines when other people are dealing with that, but at the end of the day, we want to be a protector of our node, very much a policing blue guild of our node. So protecting our economy, the caravans coming through those territories, things like that, while also being kind of aggressive towards enemies, enemy nodes and things like that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, our goals for Alpha 2 is to we set up 8-man groups for all of our people who are going to be participating in that. We're going to have squads ready to go, different things set up for sieges. We do heavy VOD reviews, we do gear checks. There's a
wow.
lot of there's a lot of moving parts and things that go on to just make sure that everybody's on the ball. If anybody needs help with either just getting the gear that they need, we really take a kind of like microscopic look as to what everybody is doing, and it's not so much as like you're here, you're a number, and you just show up and swing your sword and hit your buttons. So yeah, it's a very detailed approach. There's a lot of organization that my officers put a lot of and leadership put a lot of work into. Whether it's recruitment, that organization on the back end, and we have people who work on our website and back end tools for a lot of that organization. So yeah,
Okay.
we're very
That's really
excited
cool.
about that.
You mentioned a lot there. First off, Sawman said ARPK in chat. What does that mean? Will they ARPK? I assume what the PK means, but what does that mean, Sawman? But you said something interesting there. I'd like to kind of delve into. You said VOD reviews. Like basically, you're looking to make sure that a player is good. Like you want to review your gameplay. Like you're not just letting know. Like you don't got to be the best of the best, but you're not letting a run-of-the-mill player join the guild. You want to see VOD reviews like how's your parsing in PvE, how's your dueling in PvP, et cetera, et cetera. Like you guys are like, so are people submitting unlisted YouTube videos or just uploading the file on Discord, and you guys are like combing through, like how strict? Well, I'll tell you what, how often have you had to deny somebody, like, because in the Ashes of Creation Discord recently, we was talking about this last stream as well. Someone's posted a ESO clip, and Elsa and I and myself, we're pretty, I would say we some ESO veterans as far as PvP, outnumbered PvP, 1vx, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see some gameplay where you're just like, what are you doing? Like, what is that about?
Yeah.
Have you had to deny somebody? Like, how often does that happen where someone submits something and you're like, really, this is your resume?
So like currently we have about a 73% denial rate on applications. We average about roughly like 5 or plus applications a day. And yeah, I mean, the VOD reviews is probably one of the biggest like boons to our organization, and just making sure that people are up to code on what our standards are. I mean, you see things where people are chasing 2 guys off in the forest. You see things just people might things that people might have missed on, but a lot of times we really keep those VOD review sessions just between the class lead and the person that we're working with, and we also try to educate people on how to improve. We're really big on the self improvement, and that's something that I know a lot of groups see as toxic. But we're always thinking about like ways to improve either our organization, ourselves as players, and how do we move forward when either on the next war plan, the next raid plan, whatever it may be, so that we can always kind of stay at the top of our game.
And okay. And I'm sorry, Alice, I'm gonna let you get in here. Chat's just firing crazy. I want to make sure I don't leave no one too far behind. So you said, and you kind of timed it right when you said toxic. So Warrior in chat says, don't you think running a hardcore guild would make you be a little toxic? And then he goes on to say, telling someone they can't play with you because something happened that kept them from keeping up in gear and skill could be toxic. What's your rebuttal for that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we are here to win wars. We are here to compete at that top of the level, and we understand that. Excuse me. We understand that people have lives, they have jobs, things like that. I mean, one of our recruitment officers has 2 kids, and a wife, and he is, a very much
14
aggressive
dogs.
with how, yeah, and he's very much aggressive with, how he manages his time.
Yeah.
But it's really about, how well do you manage your time? A lot of the times, these games are not about, are you playing 24/7 hour 24/7? It's more about how you manage your time when you have your free time available to game. And
Sure.
as long as you are keeping up with those metrics or standards, some people might not make the cut for wars, right? But that doesn't mean they can't be a part of the broader community for things like the crafting side, PVE, day-to-day PvP in the large scale sense or arena sense, things like that. But at the end of the day, like, not every organization is a match for every player, and that's okay. We
True.
want people to find that right place for them, and these are just kind of the standards that we hold to our players, so that we aren't getting diffed by things like gear or skill or whatever it may be. There may battle plans, different metas that evolve, things like that.
Okay. And quick 2 more things here. Sawman clarified ARPK. They defend against RPKers, so they go out their way to be defenders against Reds. Basically might be a moral online too. So I guess like if you guys are going to hunt corrupted people, or will you be more on the side, probably be the corrupted ones to like kind of enforce your way around a node or enforce your way on the map. And I guess kind of bridge into that, like, do you picture yourselves like being are you trying to run a server? Do you picture yourselves being dictators? Do you want to be, I mean, I think the goal obviously would be to be the guild, right? Like be the number one guild.
So just to break that down, first, a couple of things. One, I think for a very healthy population, and what I want to see from Ashes to Creation is I want to see multiple guilds thriving, like especially with like the 5 castles, and then what they have planned for the guild fortresses for like medium-sized guilds to kind of contend on different areas of content. I want to see like a thriving, healthy server. I don't think that I think it's a very boring game if you have one guild at the top.
Sure.
It's much better gameplay when you have multiple guilds or multiple alliances vying for a different castle, and there's a lot of politics going on. So at the end of the day, we want a healthy server. Obviously avoid of any like duping bugs and a lot of the things that you've seen with New World. But as far as our destroy our enemies, right? As far as our particular node that we're going for, like I said earlier, a little bit more of that blue guild. We have the philosophy of somebody's working to progress our node, bringing in currency and materials, enriching our the citizens of our nodes, and bringing XP and helping us level faster to achieve greater progress in the other nodes. We want to kind of foster and protect that environment. But outside those those barriers, if you're different members have different goals. Some of them might want to, cause sabotage in other nodes, enemy nodes, to, maybe stop the advancement of the materials that's coming to them, or slow down, their gearing of maybe an enemy guild's troops. And that's something that's okay. That's something that we foster. It's a part of the gameplay, and we're not going to shy away from that.
Okay. And once again, just want to take a quick little break and reminder. Thank you, everyone. Obviously, we can't get to every question and comment in chat, but we are reading all your comments and everything like that, and we truly appreciate it. We cannot do this without you. You guys literally carry chat like you're doing right now. We have a lot of planned topics, of course, but we typically just have like random tangents from chat. That's how we operate. You guys, it's called the Voices of Era for a reason. We want you guys' voice to be heard, so we appreciate you. And I just want to get to one more question, then I want to pass it to Else. We have Tatamo, longtime listener here in chat. He says, my question for the guild leader. My experience in games like this is that guilds disband after a major loss. How do you go about avoiding that? So just to kind of, obviously my words, not his, but like, DA, your guild, you're either the mayor or one of your high ranking officers is a mayor, right? you guys are the guild. You're the PvP guild. You know, you guys chose the perfect dream node. You got this coastal military node. You know, it's right on the coast. You guys are living the life. And then out of nowhere, Guild XYZ comes out of nowhere. And you guys, even with all this coordination, lose that siege and there's drama. Everyone's blaming someone else. How would you go about, like, he says his experiences, people usually disband after that. How do you as a leader plan on going about that, especially in such a drama and political filled world that it looks like Steven's creating here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, at the end of the day, it's very easy to imagine yourself as the aggressor and not the one getting, attacked or pressured. At the end of the day, everybody's going to take a loss, and you really have to kind of keep that morale up. You have to let people understand that, like, hey, if we lose that war that you spoke of, let's see what we did. Let's go review the VODs. Let's go review the tapes, and really see where we can improve, what needs to be worked on, and is it a gear thing? Is it a strategy? Things like that. The biggest thing is, like, just one, keeping that morale up. Two, making sure that you're taking those losses as a learning lesson and not really, taking those to chest. Another thing is, having that small bump in the road is a good opportunity to grow. You're never really going, if you're just always winning fights and pummeling everything, you get used to whatever kind of meta you're playing. You get used to just how the way you do things get very stagnant. So a lot of those losses are a very good learning lesson. And I mean, our guys have taken a loss in the past. Sometimes you go into games and you're the one getting dicked down, and sometimes you go into other games and you're the one dicking down, and it happens, right? So it's just it's really about making sure that your players are battle hardened and they understand that this is a game where sometimes you're going to be out in the middle of the world in a group of like 8 to 10, 15 people, and another group is just coming out of a dungeon and they're going to swarm you. And it doesn't matter that we're a stronger guild. If we're halfway on the other world doing some other event, we cannot have that 24/7 presence everywhere in the world. So yeah, at the end of the day, we want that competitive environment. Other than that, if not, what's the point of even playing? And we're here for that long run. Like I said, we're here, we're invested, and a loss isn't something that's gonna just, like, cripple us or hinder us. We're used to, we've had our wins, we've had our losses, and it just only makes us get stronger. We're very, like I say, we have an environment where we're really hungry to just kind of learn from our mistakes and our losses and see how we can improve to better ourselves, because we're all, we spend hours, we're 3 a.m., watching old footage, like, we could have pivoted here, we could have had a flank group go here, or a backline dive here, and so, like,
what went wrong?
that just
Learning
leads
from your
to, yeah.
mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah, and all that always just leads to more improvement. I mean, and not only from a member perspective, but just me as a leader. I try to immerse myself in, like, other different games, do more things like shot calling, or just have a more hands-on approach with different things, because it's also a learning experience for me. And at the end of the day, I, as a leader, I'm not perfect. I have things that I might have, like, as a weakness. I try to surround myself with other people whose strengths complement that at the end of the day.
Sure.
Well said. Well said. Chat is firing off. I'll get to those. I want else to get in here, but on you, buddy.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about the toxicity point, because it was, I had it in my head, and then Royer brought it up as well. I personally have never understood the point of view of people perceiving improvement guilds as toxic, whether it's PvP or PvE or whatever. But it's always been my perspective that what I've always found, and I wanted to get your opinion on this as well, is toxicity in guilds to me have always occurred when the mission statement for the guild isn't very strong. So when you have a, hey, we're going to do everything kind of perspective, we're going to be open to, like, this and this and this and this, you kind of have, like, a separation of powers among the group of people that want to do one specific thing and people that want to do the others. When you have a point of view where you're like, hey, we want to be good at PvP, we want to go do this, we also want to help you get better at PvP, because we believe that, and we're going to provide you the tools, so if you're doing better, you're going to have more fun, and we're all going to have more fun because we're winning more.
Right.
Everybody signs up knowing that that's what it entails to join Enveus. And so I I don't perceive that sort of thing as toxic personally, because you know what you're signing up for. As long as you guys aren't, I'm not putting words in your mouth or anything, but as long as you guys aren't assholes about it, like, hey, you're fucking garbage, man. Like maybe maybe consider playing another game. Like if you're doing that sort of thing, like that would be worse. But
Yeah.
like actual helpful advice is extremely valuable in these types of games, because especially starting off, people aren't going to know what to do, and getting that leg up on other people and figuring things out is really valuable from my opinion. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's often a matter of just like wording and finding what's the best way to communicate with that individual member. That's like I said, we do that VOD review, we do that one-on-one coaching to kind of alleviate the toxicity of just like everybody and their own opinions and people jumping each other. Another thing that really helps kind of curb a lot of that toxicity is kind of the metrics we run.
Sure.
So Hoken has developed some of our back-end tools, and one of the things we do is just like we track like Discord attendance and event attendance and things like that. And a lot of times you can really kind of pinpoint where you know who those problem people are. The guy who comes in and he's mad, he's like, we never do events and we never do this and nobody ever helps me out, yada yada
Yeah.
yada. And then you pull up his profile and you're like, well, you haven't been to the last 3 raids, the last 2 call of action events that we had, you were in the corner of the world and farming some berries or whatever it may be.
I like
And
that.
a lot
Sure.
of times you can it really just kind of shut that down. And excuse me, at the end of the day, like I said, not everybody's going to be the right fit for our group. We do have a little bit more of a rigorous selection on things like who we bring into wars. There's like I said, VOD reviews, gear checks, skill checks, things like that. And at the end of the day, that's what we do to facilitate the type of competitive environment that we want. And if that's not for you, that's okay. Ashes is going to be a game of myriad of guilds between
Yeah.
Econ and Mercenary and things like that. And I think that there is a group for everybody, every type of player out there.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. It's like you're keeping a file on everybody, essentially.
Yeah.
And lastly, just that, like you said, having a clear message and goals that all members understand is very important. We let members know from the get-go after the application process throughout the interview. We set that expectation very early so that there's not really a kind of a confusion of at the level of what we're looking to play when we get into this game.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense, and I've seen it from both points of view. I've had it happen when doing a trial in ESO where you have these players that believe that they're better than they are, and they believe that they're doing things, and it's just simple mistakes that could easily be cleared up with a VOD review. And it's like, hey, actually, like you're not healing yourself here. One of the examples was one of the healers was using a ground AoE, but he wasn't healing himself with it, and so because of that, he was dying, and he was blaming everybody else for why we were wiping, because he wasn't healing himself to keep himself alive for a specific stage. So that's super interesting. And then my own personal recent experiences is like, I've been getting into a lot of Elden Ring PvP, getting ready for the next DLC coming out. And I just started like way late. I started a month ago, and I'm dueling some friends that have been playing since the game launched. They're very good. They're doing ladders, competitive PvP ladders, and they're using the high-end weapons. They're using all the top gear, and they've been playing for a while. And they're beating my ass. Like they're just absolutely destroying me. And they're like, hey man, like, sorry, I'm gonna switch weapons. I don't want to keep doing this. I'm like, no, like I'd rather die to you and figure it out than like run across the same person just doing the exact same thing to me in like the Coliseum or in another PvP arena, and then have to figure out through somebody else more toxically. Like I'd rather learn from friends and get like constructive criticism from somebody that's mirroring me and telling me like where I'm messing up than actually like, you learn more that way from my experience. I don't know if you feel the same way or not.
No, I agree, and I think it's you also kind of develop that kind of respect between your players too as well. Like when that player sees like, hey, this guy might not be like the greatest player, but like every day he's trying to learn his build. They're out there practicing on those PvP nights, things like that. That builds a lot better of a group cohesion, and it allows you to have that. At the end of the day, better soldiers. At the end of the day, better troops for whatever it is you're trying to do, or achieve in game. We always look for proactive players who do exactly this. They want people who want to improve, look for ways to do it outside of just like sanctioned guild events, and that's where we really kind of just like we just kind of put a notate by those names of those players who just outshine and go above and beyond.
Sure.
We really strive to foster that type of environment.
Okay. Someone just said, to be fair, you can't be a competitive guild without being considered toxic. Honestly, something I want to say, and I think a lot of us that's ever PvP'd in the game or has PvP as their main game loop would agree. PvP in itself is just considered toxic. Like no matter what the activity is, what the game is, they just see PvP like, oh, why do you want to kill another player? Like I've heard content creators literally spew this, like, why would you want to bully that person? Like, it's just PvP. No one's like bullying a low beast, spawn trapping them. Like they just look at PvP as like, or they die in PvP and they take it personal. They don't like when they're subject to these systems. And Ashes, especially if you ain't played a game with that kind of system, I think or you're not prepared for it rather, I think it's really going to open up a lot of people's eyes to like, hey, this ain't no walk in the park. Like, yeah, this is your, like, hell, even if econ is your main gameplay loop and you want to run caravans, guess what? It's a PvP objective, a mobile one. And then, hey, things might go wrong sometimes. You may be subject to the system that you didn't exactly, think was going to be a thing. But yeah.
Sorry.
It kind of, go ahead.
I'm really sorry. I just got 8 gifted subs from Arctic. I just want to say thank you real quick. Appreciate it, Arctic. Sorry. I wanted to just recognize that it happened, and yeah, we can continue. So thank you, Arctic.
OG Arctic.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dia. You was gonna say something?
No, I was going to say that I think that also kind of just ties back into that, this is a PVX game, and like you're not always going to be the one in the safe one. I'm always think back to the last fresh start that we played with Arcade. It was me and Azu, and we were beating up on the server admin and 2 of his friends. They ran up on us, and they tried to PvP us. We took their packs, we turned them in, and we beat them down. And then like an hour later, there's 3 of us on a boat and 2 of us AFK to just go get some food and come back. And as I come back, they're jumping us, and as we screaming like, yo, get back to the game, I need your help. And we're like, oh shit. So like, that's just a part of the game, and whenever we ended up losing that fight because our healer was AFK and they ended up outnumbering us, and I sat there floating in the ocean dead. And like for like half a second I was like, man, I'm mad. But then like I remembered, man, I am back home. Like this is the gameplay that I love. Like, so it's just it happens, right? And so you just warp back. You hit the return button, you go back at it, you reload your ship, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and eat my burrito. I'm not turning away from my stream. I'm moving these goods. Like I got to pay attention, and that's that emergent gameplay is something that I really love. I think a lot of people
involved.
Right. And I think a lot of people just go into the game with the wrong expectation. And that's unfortunate. This is a PVX game. And if you haven't really kind of played an open world MMO that has that like criminal system with those PvP and PvE elements, it's a little bit of an adjustment. One thing that a lot of our guys really were I wouldn't say not accustomed to, but just really was just a little bit of an eye opener is how much like the econ game plays into, especially like a game like Arcade. Like you are working together with your family, and you're doing your daily family events, and you're planting your crops and making sure like, okay, this guy's setting up a gazebo and we're gonna plant 30 moon lilies because the winter is about to come, and this is the last time that we can plant the moon lilies. And that's the type of gameplay that people, I don't think the broader audience is really going to be accustomed to kind of getting diffed on. In the simplest terms is there are so many things in a game like Ashes, in a game comparable to Arcade, where somebody might have gotten the world first on the raid, but that doesn't matter because you didn't plant your blood lilies before spring started, and then you're out of those for X amount of time, and you can't move or progress into this other area, or you miss out on this big money making, and that sets you back further than it would, just getting second place on the raid.
Yes.
Here, I want to get to this question really quick.
Yeah.
I promised him from like 10 minutes ago. Wisp says, do you think guilds like Envious can hurt a server? Casuals can hear Envious is on a server and avoid it. I love that question. What is your response to it? And I feel like I heard someone say they're going to avoid Envious server at some point recently. But do you think guilds like Envious can hurt a server? Casuals can hear Envious is on a server and avoid it. What's your thoughts
Uh,
on that?
I think that it is really relying up to the game systems versus just any one guild. It really depends on how Ashes handles like their rating system, for example. In those raids to get that top end gear, or is it just going to be a swarm of PvPers at your back all the time? Do the raid bosses close off? Things like that. Those type of things really just lean towards the game. Another good example to look at it is a game Throne and Liberty. There's one castle system. There it is very much a ally up with the biggest guild, and everybody can play on the winning side,
Yep.
and you just kind of steamroll a server. And there are going to be guilds who their goal is to go on the server and do just that. And excuse me, who am I to say, whether that's, bad of them? That's, they're just playing the game within, the game. They're playing the game that's what's been offered to them, and they're using the system that's available to them. So yeah, it's really just up to Ashes to kind of put in that type of content to make things more of a push and pull, risk versus reward. Things I'd like to see, for an example, if you're going to incorporate PvP in some of those raids, is instead of just constantly having people throwing themselves at the tanks and the healers in the back line, make it a boss room that closes off, and then have mechanics at certain breakpoints that allow, the players to kind of, the monster coin system that they've talked about for so long. Let
Yeah.
some of those
Sure.
players queue in as mobs and play ads, and, these ads are really focused on our healers. Go after that group of raptors over there, things like that. So I'd like to see them kind of implement more systems to
Yes.
make that more of that interesting gameplay versus just, it's a boring boss and you just PvP and fight the whole time. A good system needs and then for Ashes to succeed, it has to have fun PvE rating, things like that, without PvP. Like PvP shouldn't be just the only fun factor within it.
Yes. I think that's
Absolutely.
fair.
Yeah, and people can make choices, but there's no guarantee that like another server may not be better for them as well. One of the things that you do have the choice in Ashes of Creation is you can re-roll that server, and have a different experience.
Sawman wants to know, will Envious leave the role players in peace?
So it's a bit of a tricky question, and I'll answer like this. If we're in the tavern and you're role playing, yeah, you'll probably catch some of us, bullshitting around, playing some tavern games and doing emotes and dancing and joining along. If you're moving a caravan through our territory to bring more commodities to our node, to enrich our node, we got your back. But if you're out in the wild and you're moving goods to maybe an enemy node or something like that, it doesn't matter. We can't engage whether you're a role player or not. We're just another enemy player, and the saying goes, if you're ready, you're dead.
Good question here from Fox. How many members for Envious currently?
So I will go here, server settings, roles. So for Alpha 2, currently we have about 326 players.
Wow.
For Alpha 1 and those early testing, we have about 125. So yeah, we have a lot of people excited to go in and hit the ground hard, and we're getting more applications today. We know that there's there's a lot of people who are still kind of waiting until we get a little bit closer to Alpha 2 that are going to also ended up joining us or putting in their applications and and so forth. So yeah, we're really excited, like I said, to hit the ground running and be able to kind of participate in all types of that content. And going just the little bit to kind of go back to the philosophy and just our whole thing as far as we want to fight other big communities. Kind of we don't really have we don't have fun chasing down individuals. We're not that let's just bully
Yeah,
this
not
guy
the
to spawn
XV1
bullying.
pros.
Yeah, we're not sitting there to spawn bullying. We want the good fight. We want the people. We like fighting the people who come to the server and they have people a group just as big as ours, just as sweaty, and they're in chat and they're in the alt discourse talking shit, and everybody's throwing little memes around when they get their hit on their 10 players or your 10 players. Like that's the
Yes,
type of
sir.
gameplay we like. Picking on the guy just pushing his cart throughout the world. It's not really isn't much of an interest for us. And I think that a lot of people have a misconception that kind of big guilds want to go uncontested and dominate a server. I think on the contrary, like in my experience, is that they just really want to face a good challenge. And a lot of times the MMOs that we play really lean towards some very skewed, just either power creep or they don't offer kind of enough ways to put your name on the map, win in other areas outside of like, hey, do you own these one or two towns or castles? And if you're not part of these singular groups, then you're just a nobody. And I think that's something that you're really going to kind of see alleviated with Ashes when it comes to the different metrics on like the guild rankings and in different categories, right? Guild rankings were a big thing in Arc Age, and with Ashes you can even break that down more granularly to faith towards your node, economy, different things like that. So I really think that's going to allow for a lot more guilds to kind of thrive on a healthy server.
Yeah, my big thing that gets me coming back or gets me really excited about this game, not just the systems, but it's like all like you kind of chimed in before on your thoughts on this will only be allowed if the systems are bad. If the systems are good, like this will happen. My perspective on big guilds has always been, and we've talked about this in this podcast as well. Nice, big guilds will only be big dominating guilds for as long as the world allows it. Like if the world doesn't allow it, it's not going to happen anymore. So yes, Enveus here, they have 300 people. The server is 10,000 people. So if they're out here and they are picking on multiple different nodes, multiple different groups of people, you have a chance to work with a lot of other people to take them down.
Absolutely.
And so that's a cool aspect that exists in this game. It's not just, oh, they have 300 people and we have 20. It's like, okay, well, if your 300 people are hypothetically beating on this 20 people, you're probably beating on another 20 people over here, another 20 people over here, and you can work and build these types of cooperations to build up that challenge that you actually want, and they actually are going to develop an alliances because this is going to be a team game after all, and
for sure.
That's a cool part. And also, it's just I was listening to a previous live stream and Steven talked about the destruction of the world, and then the rebirth, and obviously the Phoenix emblem and everything. And a lot of people go into this and they want to be builders. But the thing is this game will be, you have builders and you have to have destroyers and you have to have rebirth in this game, because a lot of games, I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, where the people that get in first and they dominate or corner a certain part of the market, they basically control the game for the rest of its existence, or that server in that specific way. As long as you have that potential rebirth where you can destroy and take somebody out, like you guys get a corner of the market early on, you can get sacked, you can get destroyed, you can get set back to zero, your node can. And basically it just reestablishes like the social order of the world. It's not just you're in charge forever, hypothetically. You're only in charge for as long as you're better than everybody.
Right. Yeah, and I think, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say else. I was gonna agree. Fox beat me to it. I was trying to wait for else to finish, but
sorry.
Yeah, what else described? Oh no, you weren't talking a while. But I was just mad that Fox beat me to it. I was gonna say what else was describing is almost like a reverse of the movie 300. It's just like there's, instead of the 300 Spartans taking on the large army, it's just you just need about, I don't know, 200 people to take on the army of 300. I thought that was funny, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like that potential rebirth also allows for kind of better replayability and continued interest in the game.
Yes.
And like that leads to, like I said, more healthy servers. That power struggle always shifting during different metas leans back to what we said earlier about you're not always the winner. A lot of times, hard meta shifts. You've got too many melee now, and you need to shift more towards mages. And yeah, sometimes you might take a loss through that. And you you gotta have, you have to have a little bit of hair in your chest because the memes do come. Anytime somebody takes out the top, there's always those people who are like, yeah, get shit on, blah blah blah, blah. But it is what it is. It's all about part of the fun, and then you're just like, okay,
Yeah,
it's it, that is what leads to that interesting that gameplay. And I really think that castles are going to be really fought over by alliances more than they will just
notes.
individual guilds.
Sure. Yeah, real quick, nice. I think it's really my cool one of the topics I was discussing with a few people on stream was how competition is going to drive different parts of like different areas of the nodes. And one of the things I brought up was, more perhaps, and we don't know yet, but the central part of the map will be probably more contested. Like people that want to PvP, people that really want to sweat and compete will want to be around more people, and there'll be a lot of competition and a lot of fierce drama there. And I think as you get to the outer part of the map, there'll be less drama. There'll be like, you just don't have as many interactions with people potentially because it's just there's not as many people in the area to interact with. And so it's going to be fun because you're going to see people, you're going to see some nodes like fly up, like shoot up 1, 2, 3 spots. And then everybody else is like, nope, screw these guys. We got to take them down. And then they get crashed. And then meanwhile, like you have these hair races in the middle of the world. And then on the outside, you have like these tortoise nodes that are just like, hey, nobody's bothering us. We're just going to keep leveling up. And they're just going their own special, they're going their own route and they're leveling up. And, and they're just keeping up. And because there's just not as much controversy. And so it's going to be so interesting to see what type of politics come into play, because you're going to see a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Want to say thank you to HD for 5 months. I know it's been over 5 months, but thank you for 5 months of YouTube channel memberships. We are live on both platforms. Make sure you guys are following Is There No One Else? If there is a member of Enveus in chat that could paste a Discord link, a Discord invite link into the YouTube chat, I'll pin that. I don't know how to do it on Twitch, but I could probably figure it out. Perfect. And also, Ashes of Relation, how you been, buddy? How did the move go? I know you've been hella busy. Blap with 1,000 bits. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Ashes of Relation. Hope the move and everything went well. The lack of cap on node sieges introduces a type of vote by combat method for who people want to take down. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's true. I can't wait to see that. All the, I could picture us looking at a map and like, okay, this node is level 3, but this was level 4. We should probably siege this one. If we do that one, that's going to let us, we can't go into Metropolis until this stage 4 node is brought down, or this one might be like all that, I guess, war planning, if you will, like and strategic land grabs and stuff like that. I'm excited for.
Yeah.
I want to get into our first discussion here. Let me, you got that in chat already? I'll pin it when I see it. Shoveling your driveway. Let's go. And once again, thank you, Blap. So how do I say this? I want to get to our first topic, and it's an image I have in the chat there, and I'll go ahead and show it on stream. Here, let's see. Where are you? 1 second. There we go. All right. So I want to get your thoughts on this. I think I happened to see your thoughts one day on Discord, but I want to get your verbal thoughts, I guess, on this. So this is just people were complaining in the Discord about the upcoming live stream topic. A lot of people don't feel like it warrants a stream. Some people are interested in it, but don't think it warrants a stream. And so I was just naming off so many things I feel like people are asking to see, wanting more information on. I feel like, and we talked about this last week, but I feel like there's so much that we have left to see, and maybe a couple of months to go to Alpha 2 starts, and like I said, we have so much we want, and I'm just naming off random things. Different showcasing a different biome, certain combat elements, node types, crafting. Where are the dwarves? Do they exist? Maybe showing corruption, Talnar, rogue, stuff like that. Dungeons. A lot of these things, and we're getting commissions, which I think is the one thing people haven't been asking for. And these aren't going to be mayoral commissions we see in this upcoming live stream. And I'm aware that, you know, we can't get two things at once, which is what I'm hoping happens. I'm on the copium from last stream. I was saying, hey, we're gonna get commissions. Maybe it's in a desert biome, or maybe it's a fighter doing the commission, you know, so we get a couple of skills previewed while he's turning these quests, right? You know, I'm just like, there's not just commissions in the Riverlands again, right? Surely that's not the case. What is your thoughts on the upcoming stream?
He wants you to talk him off a ledge.
Oh man. Okay, so this is one of those without going in NDA topics. So I'll tread lightly here.
You
but
can go into NDA. We don't
This
mind.
boy puts the DA
I
in
would
NDA.
I would love to. There's so many things that I'm just ready to talk about, but you know, Intrepid isn't there yet, and so I just got to respect that.
That's fair.
But yeah, you know, keeping in mind that not everything is going to be available at the start of Alpha 2, I think the commission stream does seem like a little bit of a little bit of a filler stream, if you will. I think that there are some interesting ways that they can go about commission. Different ways they could go about that. Showing how the commissions level up the node, maybe seeing a node level up from the early stages. You could do something like showing different mandates. I think it's going to be, if we see commissions, it's important to see different mandates.
Yes.
There's also some other systems that within the node that they could tie into those commissions that I think I would like to see. Kind of a little bit more of that mayoral UI from the church, or where, if it's at a town board or the church. We've seen the the church system where they said that's where you're going to do your voting and your mayoral leadership things. We've seen the town boards kind of like as you're going into different buildings. So there's a couple of different things that they could kind of include with that. And I mean, you're probably right. They are going to they probably are going to sneak in some extra things, but it's just a wait and see. If it is a little bit more of a sleeper stream, I just hope that they're just kind of getting along through the early month of February, so that we can have a banger coming up within the next couple of months.
Nice.
That's not a prelude to anything. I don't know.
You can't confirm, but that was a good prelude you just laid out.
I just hope.
Okay. So I'll ask this one to Else, actually.
Oh no.
How many more streams? Like, if you had to give an exact number, how many more streams do you got left in you? I mean, okay, let me preface this, because we're gonna watch the streams no matter where they take place or what they're talking about.
And after.
Yeah, like we're waiting on some ashes. We want to see some ashes, but how many more streams showing just the Riverlands leading up to Alpha 2 to where you're just like, all right, come on, man, like that's it, come on, like can we please see something else?
Go ahead.
So my perspective on it is I don't have a timeline for that, because I think what they're going to have happen, and this is just my perspective, I don't think we're going to see a single other biome until we get an Alpha 2. Like, I go into it expecting that we're not going to see another biome until that happens. I think when they launch into Alpha 2, we're going to test the Riverlands specifically, and we're going to test and make sure that there's no bugs in that area. And once they get a pretty good grasp in that area, I think we might branch out into other biomes. I think I don't want to provide like a bunch of cope, because I know a lot of people on the Discord believe that like these maps aren't ready. That's why they're not showing them. I can understand that perspective. I can also see the point of view that Steven's brought up, where he wants players to enjoy different parts of the map at certain times. So I don't know. Like I guess I would say until the end of the year. Like, so at some point during Alpha 2, I expect to see other biomes. And so I guess the next 12, I expect to see the Riverlands. Until then we'll be well in Alpha 2. And then at some point we'll see some afterwards. So I don't really, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest, because it's not something, I don't know. I just kind of expected for it to happen later.
Yeah. What about you, DA?
I'm kind of the same opinion. Just the one positive thing about the Riverland streams is that it does keep the rest of the game fresh and interesting for us. I know Steven and Intrepid has also stated that they don't want to give everything out there too much. They want a lot of that to kind of be like, awe and a new experience for the players itself. So, um, it also depends on how much there is to kind of do in the early testing. I'm okay, like again, I'm as long as it's there being worked on and things like that, I'm okay with, like you said, 8, 12 months without seeing another biome. I would like another kind of you know how they did the UE5 desert video. I would like
Yes.
to see maybe one of those for like another biome as well. That'd be pretty cool.
Wait. Not to
But
cut you off, but so I thought when Elle said 12 that it was a mistake because we'll obviously have our hands on Alpha 2 by the time that okay, so both of you guys used the number 12. We're gonna have our hands on Alpha 2 before, so it won't really matter if they show just the Riverlands for the
yeah,
next 12 streams. So wait, are you both implying to me that you are okay and or expect Alpha 2 to launch with just the Riverlands?
I would be disappointed if it launched with just the Riverlands, but that would also have to depend on one, how much space there is, two, how much content there is and things to do, how many people are per server, and I think the biggest thing is like how good the combat is and how good the systems feel. I think that in hindsight, thinking about it, 12 is probably a little bit long, especially with how close we will be seeing that Alpha 2. They should have there should be at least 2 biomes, I would say. That would be like the bare minimum of what I'd like to see in Alpha 2 is just 2 different biomes, the desert and the Riverlands. But what's a little bit kind of more on my priority list is like I said, making sure that combat is nailed down and is fun and it's good, it feels fluid, and making sure the systems are working properly. There's no bugs, dupes, hacks, and things like that, and making sure that the game is good. Because at the end of the day, we want this game to succeed. We want this game to kind of be our next 12-year plus MMO, and
Sure.
that doesn't happen if we have 20 different zones but there's nothing to do in them, or they're all boring, or the combat just doesn't feel fun.
Yeah, my kind of perspective, and since you asked about the 12-month period, I don't know. I'm not an intrepid developer, but like my perspective as just a guy with a microphone is that if I was stress testing a game for Alpha 2 and I was trying to make sure to go into eliminate bugs and everything, I would try to consolidate as many people into an area as possible to really try and find every issue, because you're at that point you're stress testing like random falls through the map, random collisions with different rocks and different things, and having that population just super dense in an area helps for that. It also helps just to show that your servers can actually handle performance in that kind of consolidated way. Like if all of a sudden 500 people are in the Riverlands, or 2,000 people or whatever, and your server can actually handle it and everything's functioning at a high level, it leaves you confidence that your 250 v 250 battles are actually going to function at a high level when you get to node sieges and stuff like that. And so my perspective is I don't really expect to see anything besides the Riverlands until we get to Alpha 2. And then once we get an Alpha 2, I don't know when they would do a showcase on it, I guess, but I've always kind of assumed we'd have 2 or 3 different areas open up for Alpha 2, but I guess I wouldn't expect to see a showcase for any of those other ones until at least 6+ months. So somewhere around the 12-month period is when we'd see the first one after that.
Yes, Viral. Steven did quote 3 biomes for Alpha 2 launch. Okay. Just as a follow-up question, what are your thoughts on the Sand Squall Desert DA from when you played?
I have no thoughts on the Sand Squall Desert because I have no thoughts on the Sand Squall Desert.
That's too bad.
Smart man. Smart man. All right. So here there was one more thing I wanted to get at. Oh, yes. So let's talk about everyone's favorite topic.
Which one?
DPS meters. Let's go. What are your thoughts
Um,
on DPS meters? And how do you feel about Steven kind of being against DPS meters?
well, honestly and truthfully, I think that DPS meters are a very easy tool for people who don't necessarily have the time and uh, pretty much it's just the time and kind of like knowledge to do either the math behind all the damage calculations or just recording their footage at the and then adding all that up. A lot of people want to get on the game and they want to play for a couple hours, and it's very easily accessible to a lot of players to just kind of see, oh, these are the things that I'm low on, my damage is low, I need to work on my defenses or my bubbles, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And without that, I think that you end up with a situation where you have those groups who are going to put in the work and are going to be very meticulous to every number, to every spreadsheet, and that only leads to a wider variety in that kind of gap in power. I think that and again, it also depends on what AOC's PVE looks like. If
Yeah.
if that PVE is tank and spang, it really doesn't matter, right? You just really need to have your meta set up for your PvP and things like that. But if they do have like instant, because they did say that some of their content will be instances for us, like some of the raids that aren't
Yeah.
based on like power progression for gear. So if they do, what I would like to see them do is maybe like have for different cosmetics or achievements, titles, things like that, is have some instance raids with those kind of more mechanic heavy things that people can lead into. And I think that just it creates a fun environment for when you're doing things like just everyday things. You're running through a dungeon. Hey man, like I'm doing 3 times what you're doing, pick it up. You're just ripping with your friends in Discord. It doesn't have to be in anything toxic. Like I said, it's a tool to like organize, learn, and strategize. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
top organizations will find a way to kind of optimize their gameplay. And in some ways, the lack of DPS meters kind of hurt those people who are in the middle.
Interesting.
And yeah. And we just, like I said earlier, we want to see those healthy servers. We want to see, even if it's not just a straight meter, kind of those after battle reports, or like how an ESO does. It tells you what you were killed by, the damage
Yep.
that it did, things like that. All those tools help players kind of like gauge, what killed them. It tells you like, oh,
Every
I was
cap. I
standing
hadn't
in
thought
his
about that.
Spanish trap. I was standing in his fire trap. I need to not be a dumbass and stand in the fire trap.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like those little things that allow those players to kind of like see where they did wrong. It removes a lot of that frustration of, oh, it's just the game, oh, it was lag. It removes a lot of that guesswork, and it allows players to grow. And like I said, you want that helps foster a more competitive, healthy server versus like, oh, well, these groups have the spreadsheet nerds who are willing to put in the time and work, and everybody else is all going off of, hey, I'm using this rotation because it feels good. And little do you know, you're missing out on 3 CCs, a heavy combo, and these 2 skills you can close the animation or skip the animation if you combo it with these things. It's those little things that win wars. It's those little things that allow
Sure.
you to just kind of snowball ahead in these type of games. So
I
yeah,
think
you always have to be very much aware.
I think you kind of hit the I think you hit it on the head there when you said even if it's not in the game, players will find a way. I always say that people are going to find some high health troll in the middle of Riverlands and sit there with a stopwatch and start parsing it. Like, all right, it took you to, the troll had 100k health. It took you this many minutes to kill it, so this is your
Yep.
DPS number. It's that simple.
Yep. Yeah. And so we understand if you sign off right now, DA, when we emit this, but Nice and I started playing ESO on console. And so we didn't have access to all these cool, sexy add-ons to start off with. But one of the things that I did, and I know you did this as well, Nice, was starting off in ESO for PvE parsing. We had the
blood spawn.
We had the blood spawn in the dungeon where you had to beat it in like a minute and a half or whatever it was at that point in time. And so people would go in, you would kill this boss that had a certain amount of health, and as long as you could beat in a certain time period, you qualified for DPS parses. As far as PvP goes, when I was trying to figure out what did more damage, I just dueled a friend, and I would just isolate that specific set, and I would replace one set with another set and be like, hey, what do you feel like is like causing you to heal more, like what's putting you on the back bar more. Like you can kind of feel it in a 1v1 perspective, like, man, like I'm really reeling here when you're running this specific set. And so although you don't have the exact numbers like you're saying with like combat metrics or like death recaps, you can kind of experience it from those perspectives as well. And so I could see both points of view. Like I've played a game with combat metrics and with death recaps and with these sorts of things, and I play games without it, which was the exact same game. And so I see both. I understand both. I don't know. I do understand the healthy aspect of it too, because you want to give people tools, and if people don't have the tools to compete, it basically spreads the player gap, and I do agree with that as well.
Yeah, okay. And there are ways to provide that information without being toxic.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have two contrary positions in chat. So you have Linux saying only the shitter fears the DPS meter, and then you have Faithless on Twitch saying things that ruined MMOs: DPS meters, fast travel, and YouTube. Now, before we get into that, I want to circle back to something DA said. He said death recaps. That's something I had not thought of, and I haven't seen in Ashes. I am a huge sucker for death recaps. I love learning and knowing what killed me. If I don't get DPS meters, that's fine. I don't care about it. I really don't. I do think it's a fun take in the AOC community, though. But I want a death recap, man. I want to know that this mage's lightning bolt hit me for 5K. Because you ever get bursted or like you almost feel like you desynced? You want to know, like, oh, what they kill me with? Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that proc that they're using? Oh, or even if you simplify it like New World and just it tells you the weapon they use. Even that's a little helpful, I guess. But I would like some sort of feedback, some sort of recap. It makes you feel a little bit better. But let's get into this. Only the blanks fear the DPS meter, and Faithless says things that ruined MMOs: DPS meters, fast travel, and YouTube. Oh, there's a lot to unpack there. What do you think? Do you think DPS meters, fast travel, and YouTube? Let's break those down one by one. So I guess we can give a short answer on this one since we just talked about DPS meters. But do you feel DPS meters ruin MMOs? It's kind of what you just answered, but
I think the main issue is that people and organizations that see DPS meters as the end goal rather than kind of the beginning of the conversation. They're just looking at it from the wrong angle. That's why we do those VOV reviews, and those are mandatory in the guild to help us improve. I have no problem, and I don't think that self-improvement ruins games. I think it all just makes us better players, and I think that we should all strive to have kind of that mindset of just wanting to better ourselves as a player. It might not be at the same pace as everybody else, right? But at the end of the day, we all go to the gym, right? Some of us go to the gym to pump iron to get swole. Some of us just go to make sure that we're in our proper weight, we're keeping up with our health and things like that. And that's okay. We all all have those different goals at the end of the day, and I don't think that's really kind of ruined the MMO. I will agree on the fast travel. I think fast travel has really taken away from it allows you to move your armies just over miles and miles instantly, and which really kind of helps cater to those Zerg-like tactics, right? If I see my friends getting just demolished over on the other continent, I just hit a teleport, hit my recall stone, my hearthstone, whatever you want to call it, and I'm over there within a couple minutes, and it's army versus army, and that caters to some really good and fun and big battles, but it also just like you said, caters to that kind of Zerg tactics. Lastly, with YouTube, I wouldn't say that it's ruined the MMOs. I think it's just changed up the experience. I think that we've gone from being accepting as players, as being more accepting of bad features, time waster mechanics. We're not so much fans of MMOs that kind of just waste our time these days, and I think that it's up to the companies and to kind of pivot towards that different type of audience and community going forward, versus just looking at it as a bad thing. Step-by-step guides also may be less valuable in Ashes because each server will develop differently. So again, that's another different mechanic that you can drive within your server. It's hard to say that, hey, this is the best, chess piece in the game, and you have to go get it now when it's the water dungeon on, server 10, and server 15 has the fire elemental dungeon unlocked because they're developed in a different position. That
Yeah.
leads to a whole different, then you've got 10 different YouTube videos on 10 different servers.
Yeah,
We got a lot of takes to read in chat.
I
Go ahead, Els.
I do want to say one thing about what you one of the people commented and they said DPS meters, only shitters fear DPS meters. I would go so far as to say that only shitters fear YouTube videos, because and obviously I'm mostly joking. but the view, I am completely joking, guys. You can't see my face. I'm just yeah. My point of view on this is if you're worried about Nancy, age 65, running the new updated battle sets that she got off of YouTube, you're just not advancing in the game. Like players, if you look at any sort of MMO, players just advance and get better over time. They just get better and better. And you look at some of the top tier players in whatever MMO you played 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and you match them up to what they would do now. They're not going to hold a candle to where players are now, because people are honing and getting better, and they're just improving. And YouTube allows that to happen to a certain degree. Like, as long as the game isn't too gear dominant, it's not a big deal if players have good gear. Like, they still have to be able to actively defend themselves. They still have to be able to actively heal. They have to be able to actively dish out damage. All these sorts of things come into play. And so, yeah, you can provide a guide. I can't tell you how many times I provided a build video in ESO, and then I've ran across somebody running my own build, and it's cool to see. It's like, I know where you got that from. That's great.
Yeah.
But they don't beat me with my own build because I've been playing it. Like, I know what my own build is, and so and that's my perspective is if you're playing a game and you're playing for that long, and all of a sudden the advantage is somebody finally knows what a good gear set is, and that's the great equalizer for you. Yeah, you gotta get better. Yeah, this is a learn to play issue at this point. So
Yeah, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head with one of your points about, the player organization is also evolving, right? We're not all just kind of shooting into the dark at a random game, in EverQuest 2. We're playing games where, people are developing strategies, and, they, some of them work out, sometimes they do, they don't, but we have a lot more information and organizational tools at our tip to kind of compete at that higher level. So, the game changes. You gotta, pivot and change with it. Gotta adapt. Yeah.
Gonna go through a lot of comments in chat really quick to catch up. Hellstalker says, I'm the number tracking type, but I understand why he doesn't want them in, but I'll definitely be creating my own software to plug my numbers in to track myself. Fair. Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna do that. How you doing, Big Head? How you doing, everybody that came in? Appreciate you guys. Einer says, do the mobs have regen in this game? Not that I've noticed. I think some of them have did Tumak have a way to heal himself? I can't remember actually.
Yeah, it was either the tree or the mushrooms, one of the two.
See, that's what I remember. But I think in general, there's not like a HP regen going on with mobs, if I'm correct. But that's just speculation.
I think they have to be out of combat for that to get that.
Yeah. He said, Faithless says, the moment DPS meters became a gateway, they are toxic. And then Ham says, base comment to what Linux said about who needs the only people that fear DPS meters. He says, at the end of the day, I feel like you give the data to the players. Let players do what they will with it. If you are so against DPS meters, then you can find a community who won't care about it. That's true.
Yep.
Astea says, DPS meters ruining MMOs is an objectively wrong statement. I do understand why some people dislike them, though. Fair. A lot of people agreeing with DA. ZVZ is boring. Faithless says, when people make DPS meters a gateway to you joining a raid, that's when it becomes a problem. That's an interesting take.
I mean, it depends on what they're trying to accomplish. It can be. It absolutely can be, but like if you're trying to join a guild or a raid that where they're trying to complete a trifecta and do all this top tier things, and literally that trial or raid or whatever is a DPS parse. If you're not fulfilling the requirements, I don't think it's toxic at all to say, hey, you can't join right now. Like you don't fulfill the requirements. We're not going to be able to complete what we're trying to complete with your numbers where they're at. And it's not saying that you can't come back and get better or anything like that. But yeah, it really depends on the content. It really depends on what it's applied to, I guess, from my perspective.
Good evening, Flame.
Yeah, especially, everybody has the ability to create their own group, right? You see all the time the groups that are, we're not too serious on DPS check, or, parses, or we're not, we're just learning as we go. And those groups are fine. And you see them in every game. It's just, I don't know. I find it weird to, when I'm doing something, I set up an event or I set up something, maybe I'm setting up an event in my local park. I wouldn't go up to somebody's event that they're setting up and just say like, you shouldn't have requirements or you shouldn't have a preference on what you're looking for this event. Like, it's not my event, right? I'm not the one setting up the raid. If you want to go find those like-minded people, you're more than welcome to. I think it's a little bit disingenuous and just kind of toxic to tell somebody that they can't have, specific requirements for the group that they're creating that they're looking for.
Okay. Linux says everyone's fun is different. If your fun is just to clear the content, that's fine. But that doesn't mean the people who want to push their DPS to speed run a raid are wrong, like to exclude you. I think that's fair too. Aiden says game looks so terrible. That's what he said. He just that's just it. So, DA, do you think the game looks terrible?
I think it looks good for a game in alpha. I think we've seen since like 2017, 18 that Intrepid can make a beautiful looking game. But I think just for right now, the biggest things that, and I know that I can say this safely that, Intrepid is working on, tailoring the VFX to make sure that they're right, but and they're not too over flashy, things like that. And we've seen kind of that evolution over time from a small changes over the course of the past couple months. And as we get closer to Alpha 2 and a playable state where we can kind of change those settings and edit them on our screen, I think it's going to be something that doesn't become too much of a problem. Another thing is like, it's always easy to look at a game that you haven't played yet and look at all the animations and things going off on screen and then say like, oh, that's just so much clutter, I don't understand what's going on. Because when you're actually in game and you start learning a lot of what these things look like and do, it becomes very much more it's very much more easier to understand what's going on. One of the examples that comes to mind is Albion. Every footage I watch, I was like, how do you understand what is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want. Then I played Albion, and now I'm like, oh, there's like 2-3 things you got to look out for. The rest of it is just clutter that your brain kind of processes and filters out. And so, I think with Asterisk, it's very easy to see some of the kind of just in alpha state animations or effects that are being fine tuned that, they may seem flashy, but when you're in the game, it's not as bad. Like you just looked at, looking at your stream right now, the footage of Dredd just running up on that guy, smashing his foot on the ground and slamming him with his weapon. Like,
Yeah.
that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly what I want to see.
Yeah.
The biggest things that I've seen is just a little bit on the Ranger end with the splash of arrows and the ball of lightning, for example.
Mhm.
One of the things that I brought up to the developers is just get rid of the outside dome, just let the tendrils be
Everyone
kind of
says that.
yeah, and
How
you're
do you get
good.
the same
You're good.
feedback so much and not take it like that? I think a lot of people have suggested that, and it's always ball lightning. Like, please get rid of that outer ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's fair. It's when these like in this showcase, all those effects in the same place at the same time, you start to see like how that plays out. And yeah, you can limit so you don't have to see your allies' effects, but even just the enemy effects, like, and that many abilities going off with that bright of colors, that size, it's something.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm more focused on systems and combat than
Yeah.
kind of how it looks, or if it's just the Riverlands. They need to nail the fundamentals. That's really important. And I trust Intrepid's art team. As far as development,
Yes.
art passes come last.
It's like the thing that we shouldn't be worried the most about. It's okay to give it a small critique right now. That I think that's
Yeah.
fine and fair. But I think we got to remember it is an alpha. It is an
Mhm.
alpha. As long as they don't come out and say like, "Hey, this is what the characters' faces are going to look like in 2 years,"
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, "All right, art team, I like everything else you're doing." But no,
Mhm.
I think the game looks good. Like you said, for an alpha, there are some critiques, but it's like you got to. It's an alpha, so you don't want to be too hard. But we want to see combat fundamentals. We want to see systems. We want to see combat. We want to see combat logic. Where are you with the stamina bar? How does this work? How's the time to kill looking? Little stuff like that. I think is what we need to be more focused on. That doesn't mean, like I said, you can't criticize the current visuals, but just know that these aren't permanent and this isn't what we're presenting as a final product. So, yeah. Really quick, Ham says social media, YouTube, Twitch, etc., if anything, has opened MMOs to a larger audience. It also has made MMOs more accessible to the masses by making important data mainstream. Very true. Hell says, none of those ruin a game for me. It's more of the group think that a certain play style is the only way and exploration is frowned upon. Yes, that's something I think we've talked about before else, where it's just like,
Yeah.
I hope I don't go tank cleric, which I don't know, maybe that's a paladin, and I get to end game and this end game dungeon group or this end game dungeon itself, the content itself is like, no, you got to be a pure tank because you need this and this. And it's like, all right, so I'm just gonna be gatekeeped, if you will, out of this because I got this secondary class. The guy who for some reason chose tank summoner is not going to get invited to this instance raid over here because of his class choice. They want everything min max, and the tank summoner choice is just not ideal for what they want to do or for anything for that matter. So, that's when it becomes something to really look at, or that's when it becomes an issue. But yeah.
And to chime in on that point, I mean, we've all experienced that in games where you have players that are like, oh, if you don't play this way, you're falling behind. If you don't play this way. And yeah, like to a certain degree, like there's some things that are pretty well established better than others. But my point that I always try to push out is the meta in any game is just what is the best that is known. And it doesn't mean that it's the best that exists. It's the best that is known by the player base. And so the players that automatically shut out, like looking for anything that's better are over the long term holding themselves back, in my opinion. There's an example that actually happened in ESO, since you guys have both played ESO as well. Nice. You remember when Bosork became really popular a few years ago because of one very specific set?
Mm-hmm.
That set existed that way for 2 years before people figured out that it functioned that way.
Yep.
And so
sure did.
and so you have this set that all of a sudden makes this one specific play style one of the most dominant play styles in the game, but it lies dormant for 2 years, even though nothing changed on that specific set. And so those are the sorts of things that I kind of expect, and I'm not saying it's going to happen in Ashes of Creation, but with 64 different classes, with all the different weapon types, with all the different skill layouts and the different passive trees that they're potentially going to go into, there will, in my opinion, there will be opportunities where, yeah, nice, maybe your paladin is actually the best thing. Like in New World, all of a sudden I've been seeing a certain content creator doing wars talking about how spear is really good, and I'm sitting over here, I'm like, yeah, Nice and I have known this for like 2 months now. Like, like we've known this for a long time, but now the war guys are picking up on it and they're like, oh yeah, spear is really great in wars over here. We're adding more spears. And it's like, yeah, of course.
Where have you been? Yeah. Ashes of Relation says YouTube videos are always behind the meta. That's very true. Faithless says it's not the meter that's the problem. It's the reaction to create a toxic culture of player metrics over players. I think that's a fair statement. Like we said, I think it depends on the group and how they utilize said data, which is what I think Faithless is saying too. And what it could lead to. I could get that. I could totally get that. Tanner says this guy is missing the point. YouTube videos and DPS meters actually hold players back because they start putting blind faith into those features. Ooh, that's a spicy
Uh,
take.
I don't know.
Huh.
I tend to disagree. I think generally it's kind of your mid tier organizations that kind of keep gatekeep, and it's more of your top tier organizations that are the ones who who are willing to test and develop new metas. Those top tier organizations really spend a lot of time creating those metas, not chasing them, and they tend to brace that exploration. Um,
Yeah.
it's making sure that you're not getting comfortable. Always chasing the newest data, and that what you spoke of about ESO. That's just a byproduct of having a game with a lot of different variety when it comes to the metas that you're able to build, and that's something that I would like to see in the Ashes of Creation. Is it shouldn't, when you spoke earlier about the tank, you shouldn't have the meta shouldn't just be tank, right? It shouldn't be based on your subclass. Another thing is pivoting shouldn't be too hard, right? Maybe there are situations where one leans a little bit better towards the type of encounter that you're going to, but
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, if I go into the water raid, it's better for me to have my mage because I can spec into the thunder elemental resistance. But in open world PvP, I can do whatever I want, and
Yeah.
in my maybe structured PvP in arenas, the rogue is the best one for the survivability or the mobility, and in large scale battles, tank there's different ways that you can kind of build around not only the meta that you're building for your army, but just your different types of gameplay.
Yeah.
Yep. Going
Okay.
off of DPS meters, I got a message from Corey here, and he said, if you give DPS meters, everyone will then feel obligated to use them and track the stats. Human psychology will always try to min-max and be the most competitive. DPS meters will inevitably lead to this. What are your guys' thoughts?
I'll be honest. I think that's actually true. People always talk about min-maxing the fun out of a game and how everything on screen becomes a numbers game to where you don't even see the game in front of you. You're so busy looking at this metrics, you get too lost and you forget that you're playing this. You're getting it kills the immersion of getting lost in this beautiful world that Steven and Intrepid have created because you're always looking at how efficient am I being. You're no longer role playing as this paladin tank cleric healing his group, but also trying to take aggro. You forget your backstory that you chose a Vec and the node that you're doing this for. You just start looking at these random numbers on screen. I've watched WoW streams where the whole screen is just add-ons to the point I know that person's not having fun. I'm sorry, it's a literal fact. I know that person's not having fun. He's doing this just to get some specific gear. I'm sorry, you're just not having fun. You can't convince me you are. Right, to where there's like this small circle where his like mouse kind of goes. And he's doing all this stuff. He has out all these add-ons telling him these numbers and this and that. And I'm just like, I barely see the mobs. He's not even looking at his teammate to know that he's standing in the fire. That's why he keeps having to heal him. He doesn't see all that. He's just playing what do you call it? Whack-a-mole on the health bar, clicking each person as their health gets low. He's not looking at the battle around him. He's just on this playing hot potato with his cooldowns and just it's just not a fun game when you overdo it. I'm not saying DPS meters make things fun, but I get what the person is saying. I think you do too much when you lean into metrics. It does kill immersion and does kill fun a little bit to where you gotta meet a certain threshold and complete certain content within a certain amount of seconds or at a certain rate, and that's what a person is judged off of. There are true DPS checks like in dungeons, like, okay, we got to have this much damage to get this boss down, and that's obviously an exception, but overall, that's my take.
Yeah, I would counter that with 2.1. I think that for Ashes, it leads to bad game design if your mechanics are only just DPS checks.
Yes.
It really needs to DPS meters don't need to be the end all be all. It should lean towards more skill toward and things like you're able to do the mechanics correctly or work as a group in that cohesion and coordination. Secondly, I would also challenge that with the question of why does it hurt your gameplay that other people want to compete at a more competitive level? I understand in a sense of like I'm playing a game where that power creep is endless and it's not fun when your enemy or your rivals are just able to continuously climb in power and gap you so much that you can't even you can't even compete. But you know, does it affect your gameplay that other people are walking around town with the trophy? Yeah, we killed this dragon before everybody else did. If you're killing the dragon next week, if you're getting the same gear, somebody's got to kill it first. Somebody's got
Sure.
to be proud of that accomplishment.
Very
So
true.
like, why does that hinder your gameplay when it comes to your own goals and achievements? I think the biggest thing is just like setting that expectation and understanding like, this is how much I have time due to real life, due to kids, family, whatever it may be. This is how
Yeah.
much time I have or effort I have to put in the game. And these are the goals that I want to achieve. And then it's like, how do I achieve those goals? Is it maybe I lean a little bit less on time, but I can put more towards a group to kind of achieve that goals? Or do I need to focus my focus is elsewhere? Do I need to focus? Maybe I'm just want to focus on being a better arena gameplay and topping the charts in arenas because I can only log on, do some equalized arenas, and maybe farm a little bit of gear. It's all about setting those expectations, and as well, as I said earlier, the game giving you other ways to kind of achieve different goals and kind of set your own make a name for yourself outside of who owns the 4 castles on the map, who owns the top 2 towns that make gold, or things like
Sure.
that we've seen in other games. There needs to just be other ways for that character to thrive and make a name for themselves, even if it's just something as small as like, I make the best swords because remember, this isn't a game where you're going to be crafting 500 swords. You get the 2 gold ones and you dump all the purple ones on the ground. It's going to be a more slow, methodical process. So, like when you make that holy sword and you put your name on it, that's something that you can achieve. And I think that's better gameplay than just telling someone, I'm upset because you're happy, or I'm upset because you guys play at this level and I don't. And you're excited about it. I think the only time that it's bad for gameplay or the game itself is when you're in an environment where there's no chance for you to compete on any type of level because the snowball has already gone downhill the moment the launch happened and there's no way to catch up.
Sure.
Just to quickly summarize real quick. So what DA's, just to summarize, what he's getting at is that it shouldn't hinder your thoughts as far as these DPS meters and these metrics and these leaderboard chasing and anything else you want to put in that category. Unless you should be able to find a group or guild somewhere out there that doesn't care about all that and will take you through that content without that being a requirement. So it shouldn't affect you that the high tier, the upper echelon of the server likes or uses or wants those metrics or requires them to run a dungeon with them. But does it? If these are open world dungeons that are okay, I'm gonna go off on a tangent. I'm sorry, else go ahead.
I wanted to say 2 things. So listening to Nice's tangent earlier, you guys can go back and listen to it. What I heard is he said he hates World of Warcraft. Like that's immediately what jumped into my head is he avidly hates it. So all of you WoW Andys out there, like,
fun.
You're not having fun. No, I'm just kidding. I agree with that. What I responded to this guy with on this question is, I think DPS meters or not, whether you have them, whether you don't have them, people will always actively try for what's best. You will have players looking to discover, looking to improve, looking to get better damage, better mitigation, better healing, these sorts of things. And they'll go about testing in different ways to figure it out. Whether it's an isolated group v group environment where you can provide buffs with different sets just to see what the healing numbers are or damage numbers on a specific boss. Like you're going to do these sorts of tests. The difference is how long does it take to discovery for these sets and different effectiveness do you want to have happen in the game? Because with DPS meters, it will happen faster. You will have that discovery faster. You will learn more a lot more quickly. Whereas with just actively going out and doing these sorts of things, it'll take more time. There'll be a little bit more gray area. It'll be a little bit more of a discovery point of view. And so I've sat on the side, like I can see the point of view for yes, DPS meters, no DPS meters. Nice and I have actually like 2VX chat basically saying we're against DPS meters. I could go either way. Like I see the pros for both. I see the cons for both. It just kind of depends on like what you want out of the game. And so that's kind of my point of view.
Else, while you were talking there, I pulled up one of those images from the World of Warcraft streams I'll be watching.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I promise they're not having fun, man. They're not having fun. What the hell is this? What the hell even is that?
I would say, in my experience, and something that doesn't really kind of get noticed often with people who kind of don't engage in the community a lot, is there's two type of WoW players. You have the people who like sticking towards that I want to be in my instance raid environment and this is the only thing that I want to do. And then I think that you have the kind of SOD crowd, the people who came from that early World of Warcraft that missed those early days. Like, one of the things that when I was first introduced to World of Warcraft, I played other MMOs as kind of like my starter. You guys mentioned console earlier. I started on a console because my parents wouldn't buy me a PC, but that also led into just like me saving up for a PC, getting more competitively in gaming and whatnot. But when it comes to World of Warcraft, there's very much a side of like when I was first on, introduced to that game, they were talking about like how they would drag these different world bosses to different, the other factions like home territory and grief them and all this like crazy open world PvP that they did, and it was just a blast hearing all my friends talk about it. And I think a lot of their players really miss that type of gameplay because in the end the company ended up pivoting towards what you see more today in retail. And I think that there is I personally think that there is a lot more people who enjoy PvP, who enjoy PvX style of gameplay, but they don't have anything else to really sink their teeth into that's worth their time. Look at it like this. Let's say your favorite MMO growing up was the top MMO of all time. It had everything: arenas, sprinkle PvP, sprinkle PvE. It had everything. And throughout the past 20 years, you have seen games rise and fall. Play 2 months worth of gameplay, 2 years worth of the game being alive. They go pay to win, they go free to play, different things like that. When you're kind of in that bubble and and they're looking for something new, trust me, those WoW players want a new MMO. But a lot of times for them, it's like, what is the choice? Do I go down into an older MMO where I'm just going to get dicked down because I have no clue what the meta is? I have no clue how the gameplay works. And I'm already in a comfortable environment where I'm getting the PvE, the PvP, and the things that I want to be, maybe not in the same level of the same, levels that I would like in say like an Arcade or a PvX MMO. But your other options are either pay to win bullshit, old games that it's kind of too late to get, for a stint. And it was a fun time. We got a group of people, but one of the things that it's very real apparent, like there is no recruiting new players in that game. Everybody's in their established groups and they have their friends, and there's no reason to grow outside of that. So it's very hard for new players or new guilds or communities to come in and sort of grow. World of Warcraft, there's always people with a parse log that they have available that they're looking for a new guild for any new content that comes out. So you always have this fresh thing of a group of players that you can come from. You can go into that guild game, not have played it for a couple years, and rebuild a guild up and have a successful guild. Albion is a PvP game that also does a very good job at that. There's a little bit of a pay to win element, but the baseline to getting in and being able to compete at those high levels, or at least that mid tier moving into high, is so easy that you don't need a huge community who's all just going to buckle down and go into this other game. You can just go in and find like-minded people who maybe played with a bigger guild last season, but their guild stopped playing and they're just looking for a new home.
What game is that?
There's always Albion Online. Yeah, and there's always it's a blast, bro. I promise you.
I've been looking into it.
I was hesitant to play it because of the click to move when it comes to the PvP, but it ended up being like a very fun game that I really enjoyed. There's so many different things to do. There's hell gates that come in 2v2, 5v5, 10v10, which are these portals that you in the open world that you find out, and then they come these instant zones, and then you do the little objective in there, and then other people can from their hell gates can invade yours, and then it becomes a PvP. There's black zones and red zones, which are different level zones for different group tiers of players and groups. And there's just so much accessibility to the game system that you're just not you have access to. And for a World of Warcraft player, it's a lot easier to just say, hey, Season of Discovery is coming out, and they're going to which took a pivot more back to that open world PvP, contesting world bosses, and that type of gameplay, which a lot that those players who are looking for that have something fresh and new to go into. On top of that, Blizzard does a good job of making brand new content, right? So for SOD, they're not really just playing the same old raids, the same old thing. There's new content that's being developed, new classes and experience that you just don't see with them in other MMOs. You don't see companies coming back and saying, hey, let's take a spot in our game that was pretty cool in Classic, and then let's take a pivot on that as to how we develop that, and then go another route and see how players like that. No other company is doing that out right now. No other company from the East, from the West, either coming up with new stuff that's just a quick cash grab. They're rehashing the old same fresh start so they can make a little bit of money off of that. And it's just like, as a player, when you're already in that sphere looking out, there's no point to. So, I think it's very easy to look outside the bubble and say like Blizzard players are not having that fun, but it's just like, it's just good. It's good enough. I mean, no other company's offering them anything better. And if you haven't already been kind of established in the ESO or the Guild Wars 2 scene or the BDO scene, you're not. The chances of you going in there and getting that same type of experience is very slim to just impossible.
Sure.
Nice.
And I don't even play WoW. I got to give credit where credit's due. Blizzard.
Yeah. I think WoW has to be fun. I think it has to be fun for it to be lasting this long. It has to be. And just so no one takes me out of context, I said those people with 40 million add-ons on their screen, they're not having fun. Not WoW players in general. Don't listen to else.
We spread a little misinformation on here from time to time.
It's all good.
Well, we're getting close to the 1.5 hour mark. We'll probably end it here in a little bit, but else you had anything before we let DA give his closing remarks?
No, I think we covered a lot of important things. So I mean we could go into another discussion if you guys wanted to, but yeah, we're at that point. So yeah, I'm ready to call it if you want.
Nice. Hamon says, nice. People love spreadsheets. Look at EVE Online players. Oh, for sure. I might enjoy when it comes to Ashes, dude. Y'all underestimate how hardcore I'm going with Ashes. This is gonna be the first MMO in a long time that I cared about. Like, I want everything done legit. I want to have fun. I want to meet people. I want to be social. I want to make a name for myself. And this would be the first MMO. Else and I think I can speak for you, Else, where we are getting in on the ground floor of an MMO launch.
Yes.
This will be the first time, and I'm not even talking like from a content creator perspective. Like, this will be my first time being around an MMO at launch. So I think this will be very interesting. Like, I'm gonna have spreadsheets. I'm gonna be making my gold. I want to know how much this is selling here. I'm gonna do some math on how to flip this, even if I'm only getting a 5 gold profit. I want to go hard.
Yeah. And I think that to extend on that, this is the first time you've had the opportunity. Think about the last 10, 12 years of MMOs. Where are you going to make establish yourself? In Bless, that game lasted 2 months. New World, that game lasted a couple months. Like, this is the first time that we're getting a brand new IP, brand new MMO from the ground up that we can kind of get in. And this is another, I started to go along a little bit of a tangent, but this is something that I think a lot of gaming companies miss out on that I think Intrepid does well, is building that community for your MMO. One of the things, Chronicles of Valyria, why it was so strong community-wise, bar the things with the company and the game and whatnot, is just because they had a community. They had people in a Discord and videos, content creators, and all that. And you look at games like Crowfall, who people have, that went under so many people's radar. You look at so many of these games that they don't build that community, and they don't allow players to kind of build guilds, build groups, and find like-minded minds to do those different things that really just allow those games to thrive and be that kind of long-term MMO. And yeah, it's something that we're really going to finally get with Ashes of Creation, is all these different groups building around this game that you can kind of get in at the ground floor up, build your community. You're not looking for people to group up on day one and expected to have your war roster day two. There's a lot more that we're just going to get to. And then on top of that, the cherry on top is they're not giving you guys a on rails theme park Western cookie cutter MMO. It's a new MMO that is based off the the idea of PVX and a player run economy in a world that is always changing.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the best things about playing Arcade. It's just there was always something going
Yes.
on. You were always either looking to find somebody out in the world to take their crops, defend your crops. You're getting ganked, you're getting griefed, you're doing that too. Everything every day is just you're logging on. There's something new to do. There's something fun to do, and it's not the same cookie cutter thing. Or I get on, I do my 2 hours of raiding, and then I get off and I'm done for the night. Once I beat this clear, I log off. And I think that's going to be not only a refresher for the MMO industry as a whole, but just for like players as well. And again, some players might not like it. It might not be their forte, but I think a lot of players are going to like it. And I think it's going to make this MMO very successful.
I
I want to touch on. I
sorry.
just want to say really quick. Marketing. Give shout out to Intrepid's community, their marketing team, their employees, all that. No other upcoming MMO has a community before it releases the way Ashes has right now. Like,
Yeah, sure.
we're literally talking to a guild leader right now of a game that doesn't exist. Like we're dedicated. I remember Throne and Liberty even before its Korean launch. I'm sorry, there was just no dedicated hardcore Throne and Liberty community before it launched.
Right.
Because they weren't even giving us information up until that beta out of nowhere where the gameplay was crap.
You didn't have even a forums to post a recruitment message.
Nothing. There was
Nothing.
nothing.
It's the same thing with these games, bro. And
None
you
of
go
it-
in day one, try to scrounge for an army.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like we have people obsessed and waiting for this game. It's a whole community. Go inside of what's that Discord on my I keep forgetting the name of that MMO, but I'm keeping an eye on it.
Paleo.
Here. Oh gosh. What's the one that people were talking about is the Quinfall. Go inside
Yeah.
of their Discord right now and look how often people are typing or how hyped they are or obsessed they are with Quinfall. It does not compare to Ashes.
Yeah.
Nothing's compared to Ashes. This level of hype and community that we built. Like we all know each other. Like it's just it's crazy. But yeah, I just think that's impressive of itself.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting because, like you said, Nice, I've never done like a day one MMO experience for a few reasons. One, I think the biggest reason is we already have a multiple year track record now of just about every MMO that releases being really bad. And so my perspective is why would I want to invest a ton of hours into a game that just isn't fun right away? Like look at New World. I was reading the Discord and I was talking to a few people in there and somebody made the comment. They're like, yeah, what I like to do in a new MMO is I like to go in and sweat right away. Like take off with the ground running, put 15, 16 hours worth of grinding in, get a head start way ahead of everybody. And then at that point, when I'm way ahead, then I can go back to normal gaming hours, but I have such an advantage over them that I get to take that advantage from here on out. And I'm like, I've never done that. Like I started ESO 2 weeks after it went live on Xbox. I started on PC years after, like 7 years after it came out, New World a year after. And so like, I just want to make sure the game is functional before I do it. And, the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about personally, Nice, is we talked about it last week, and I've been peddling this in as well. Is I think the MMO space is so lacking right now for anybody trying to find something new and exciting that when Throne and Liberty itself does come to the American servers, when it comes and does its global release, the fact that it just works is like a huge advantage over so many MMOs that exist right now. And so Nice and I have actually like been playing Throne of Liberty. Nice first. Nice, you're a little bit farther ahead than me, but I've been playing as well. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but my hot take I think is not a hot take anymore. I think this is actually going to happen from my initial experience. I wanted to get yours as well.
That is not something to be bringing up at the end of the stream.
Just say yes.
Sure, it's better than I'm expected. But no. But I do agree. I think just because it's something that, like El said, it's something that works. I think we just want our hands on something, even if it's just like you don't go all in on it. You just want to buy time to get distracted for a month. I think that's what it will be. Because if Throne of Liberty is going to release this year and Ashes of Creation is looking at Q3, let's say Throne of Liberty is probably Q2, Q3 for their Eastern release. maybe that will help you buy time until Alpha 2, depend on how your Alpha 1 spot testing is timed out, et cetera, et cetera. You could at least get distracted for a month or so in TNL just to buy time until AOC gets here. And I think that's the purpose it will serve. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a good, little time waster MMO if you're just looking for something to play in the meantime. Me personally, with Alpha 2 on the horizon, especially with how many people we have in Alpha 1 in the spot testing, I
Yeah.
think that we're going to be fully head on and into Ashes and won't have even time to look at TNL.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the timing is gonna. Yeah, the timing was gonna be. It's gonna be everything. Let's go ahead and end it here. I want DA if you can, and if someone can, or you can post a link in the YouTube chat as well. If you guys want to, or if you're interested, you like what you hear from Enveus, make sure you join that Discord, and yeah, maybe consider putting an application or just hang around, whatever. It's been a really good talk. I appreciate having you guys on. I said you guys. Like Elsa isn't always here. I appreciate having you on, DA.
Thank you.
And I thank Els for showing up to work today.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem.
But yeah, this has been a really good talk. We're gonna have last week we had Zara of the Nexus Guild. This week, obviously, DA of Envious, and we'll be doing a lot more of these. It's really good for us to get like a little I guess insight into how people are approaching Ashes of Creation, especially from a guild leader perspective or a guild perspective. I think it's very interesting. I think you guys really like hearing these takes and different perspectives, and I think it's even going to be more so exciting come Alpha 2 to like sit down with DA, like, hey, how did you guys establish yourself on this server? Or let's say we're on different servers. So how's things going on over there? Or what was the strategy you used? Or what is your ideal 6-man comp group? Or if you're going to escort a caravan, and et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? And we can have random people on for combat balance, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, if you want to give your closing remarks, we'll go ahead and end it here. And also, Lore Force is live. We don't get to raid into them very often, so we'll raid into them afterwards. But yeah, if you want to plug that.
I love watching them late at night. Yeah. So I'm DA, leader of Envious. If you guys are looking for a competitive guild going into Ashes of Creation, you're looking for and maybe an 8-man squad or a group of people to do things with, or if you're that spreadsheet nerd, that heavy crafter, that that econ genius, we're looking for all types of player who are, like I said, going into the game looking to play at the top level of whatever it is that their goals are, the goal that they're looking to achieve in the game, as well as have people competing at that same mindset. We strive to very much have a gaming with the boys and girls vibe versus like clocking in for a job. We have people from various backgrounds and stories, from people who work at highest level of 3-letter agencies to people who just know live game every day. So we have a myriad of just players, and we have a lot of fun. We stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning, laughing at the dumbest jokes because we're just we haven't slept in 48 hours and we're just cracked out of our minds. We have we have a good time. We keep a non-toxic environment. Unless you're one of those people. We have a couple members who really have a high view of themselves, but it's okay, because they are able to take it on the chin just as much as they dish it. And like I said, we really just have a good time going into these games, figuring out all that they have to offer, and being able to just compete in all that content at the highest level possible against some really fun groups that are coming to Ashes of Creation, coming to coming to Ashes of Creation and just this community. So we're excited to get in there, learn everything, and like I said, if you're looking for like-minded gamers, where our doors are always open.
Yes, sir. And in my mindset, I think Envious is the most, not that I know every guild out there and every person in those guilds, but I think as far as establishing themselves, Envious is the most, I would say, PvP minded established guild, like establish themselves as like a PvP focus or PvP minded. No way, Lore Forge just Wow, Lore Forge just raided us with
About to
20
raid.
people. We were just about to raid you guys. We were literally that was my closing
I'm
statement.
I'm sitting here and I see that they're raiding us just as I was about ready to raid them. That's hilarious.
No way, y'all beat us to it. Dang it! They beat us to it. It's like
We're gonna give them one more topic, or
we have.
guys-
I mean, I feel like we
Yeah.
kind of have to.
Yeah.
Great. You know what they did? It's just like they didn't feel like taking care of the kids, right? And they brought them and dumped them
Yeah,
on
now
our
they're-
doorstep, and we were on the way to their doorstep to drop our baby off.
Yeah,
You
now
know,
they're, now
that's
they're
what they
out to
just
the
did.
bar, and yeah, we got to stay at home.
Now we gotta watch these MMO obsessed kids, and
We're all
great.
obsessed. We all need a new MMO.
Yes. So speaking of which, you know what? I'm gonna ask this. So hungry for content? Yes. Welcome on in, everybody. Appreciate you guys being here. Cass said, "Here's our kids and some coloring books. Watch them, please, while we and the boys drink." How you guys doing, man? Appreciate the raid.
Yeah, welcome in, guys. Thank you.
So for everyone that is just joining us, we are here with DA, leader of the Enveus Guild for Ashes of Creation, and we just interviewed him. He gave us his life story. So his name is DA. For this stream, he dropped the how do I say this? He dropped the N out of the NDA, and he leaked everything. You guys missed everything. You guys missed it. So if you want to rewatch the VOD, it's been crazy. Actually, he demanded that I delete this before Steven gets a chance to watch. So
That's a good call.
But yeah,
It's okay. Steven's a gamer, and don't let him fool you. Steven's a very nice guy, and he's a very he's very much a people person, but when he gets into these type of games, Steven will jump on you and kick your dead body in the game. It's literally an emote in arcades where you could kick their dead body and their body would just
were you
hit
playing
limp.
arcades near launch or when Steven was playing?
So I played a little of I played alpha. I played a little bit of launch, but when it got heavy, pay to win, and I was also just involved in other games, I kind of fell off through there. But then I played Unchained and a lot of the fresh starts after that as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I was there for the classic days and the launch, and back when they were baiting us and saying this game wasn't going to be pay to win. I was like, man, this is going to be the next best thing. And then they're like, oh, surprise, labor system.
Nice. But yeah, we've been at it for an hour and a half. I guess we'll go ahead and close it here. But I do want to close it off with one topic, with everyone being here. I do want to close it off with one topic. I guess I'll cancel this raid I had for Lore Forge. Gosh, since they want to be all nice and raid. I've never. So we were actually talking about something while we were booting up the stream earlier. A little hot topic. This is something that Elsa and I have discussed on the podcast a lot. We recently had a little controversy with people finding out how things work in Ashes of Creation. We've known about the caravan system with attackers and defenders for years, but our theory was that now that people got to visualize it, it hurt and it brought pain. Attackers need more risk, or this isn't fair, and I didn't like that. Because what everybody saw in that caravan was their caravan, and that could happen to them. That can be their hours and hours and hours of grinding and everything like that coming to a halt because they didn't prepare enough. And it really strikes fear in players, and I think there was a lot of fear mongering going around, et cetera, et cetera. And no matter what side of the debate that you're on this, I do think it does warrant is a good topic of discussion. And so before stream, we were like, dang, this got people riled up seeing the risk versus reward in the flesh, right? This is the first time in a long time we've seen the risk versus reward in the flesh. And so this controversy happened. When did this last happen? The freehold stream. What do you mean everyone does it? What do you mean there's scarcity? What do you mean everyone doesn't get a freehold? What do you mean my caravan of hard-earned goods can get attacked? The next thing that's going to happen is we were talking about with nodes.
Yes.
When people's nodes get sieged and you lose that freehold, that was tied to that node because it doesn't get picked up by another. When people's nodes are destroyed, when people's they lose their in-apartment housing, when all this stuff happens, what is the next controversy? Besides those systems, DA, what do you think will be other things, just from what little or what lot we know about Ashes of Creation? What do you expect to be potential future controversies or future debates that split the community when we see them in action or in play?
I think with the type of game that we're going to see from Ashes, I think you're just going to get a lot of those conversations naturally. I think the kind of a little bit better way to put it is like, what are the kind of like light bulb moments, the realization, like, oh crap, this is
Yeah.
a PVX MMO. I think the big things are going to be one, what we said earlier, that information gap. That I didn't plant my my juju beads before the springtime came, and it's winter now, and those crops won't be I won't be able to see those because it's fall and winter coming up, and I won't be able to plant those in rotation. That's going to set me back. It's going to be the people who know the little ins and outs of things that I think there's going to be a real eye opener thing for people. Another thing is just the I think the caravan was a real big eye opener, but we really haven't seen what those losses looks like for the movement of goods. And when I say that, I mean, like, what does it look like when our guild has a castle and we're preparing for a war and we're bringing big blocks of stone to renew our castle? What does that look like when it hurts our defenses, our attacks?
Yeah.
What does it look like when we're moving large amounts of a reliquary for our node? We just beat this big boss event, and the demon gave us a reliquary that gives our node +10 on harvesting during nighttime or whatever it may be, and we bring that reliquary back to the node, but the sister node comes in, takes the reliquary, and then they get the buff. What does that look like? And I think it'll be moments like that that really kind of like turn that light bulb on for players. I think
Yeah.
it's also important to remember, like we talked about earlier, this game is about both building up and destroying things, but that's also what keeps things interesting and gives longevity to the game, and actually like helps out the people who join a little bit later. You're not joining in that server where it's just everybody's established, the power's been established, and there's no climbing for you. You just play within this little box. I think that's going
Yes.
to help kind of keep that freshness of the game alive, and lean a little bit towards what we see, how we kind of see survival games flourish through that reset system. I'd also like to see them do that with the corruption system as well, kind of like how the corruption system destroys the world itself. Maybe your world is on a less populated server, and instead of just doing something like a server merge, or what maybe you have a big corruption event that other people can join into, or that resets two different servers because they didn't fight back the corruption, and now those two servers are going to be joined together to rebuild. And then as long as there's things to help with that rebuild process, your two servers were to your two servers didn't build up in time, but now that you guys have merged into one, you get a little bit faster rates on like the growth of your nodes, where you put your blueprints, things like that, to kind of help alleviate those pain points, and just getting people used to that. The fact that this is a game where you're gonna have your wins and losses is gonna help alleviate that. But I think those are gonna be kind of like some of the big light bulb moments of just like, yeah, man, this is PVX MMO. I can't just sit in town running circles around Windsor waiting for my the little box to pop on my window saying your arena's ready, your BG's ready, your raid is
That's
ready.
great. I can't wait.
You have to be out in the world playing the game, doing things.
What is your prediction, Else?
I think nodes will be the next big one. I think DA hit it out of the park there. I wanted to chime in briefly a little bit on a few of the things DA said and kind of go into one a little bit, if you don't mind, Nice. If you wanted to say something specifically on this.
Oh yeah. I'll just go ahead and say mine's. I think node sieges. Yeah, that'll be a little wake up call. I do, however, I know this is scary. I put my trust in a community that's not going to surprise anybody. I know, but I think that's the one thing everyone is kind of knowledgeable about. That, hey, my node can be sieged. I can lose this. Maybe the freehold portion will annoy them, and that's going to be a whole nother thing. But as far as their node being able to be sieged, I feel like that's something that's been beat into our brain to where players are going to be annoyed, but they're not going to be surprised. And like when they see it happen, that they're not going to boohoo cry. It's not going to split the community. You know what I think will split the community, and this is not one I don't see no one in chat talking about or whatever. It's going to be and DA kind of talked about the PVX. it's going to be when they show dungeons, or it's going to be when these guys do dungeons.
Oh, sure.
The
Yep.
main PvE group. This is what I've been saying since the beginning.
Yep.
Intrepid would make a judge me if you want, but I think Intrepid would be making a marketing mistake if the first time they show dungeons, they show off the PVX, because instantly the Care Bears are going to be rioting. There will be picket signs. There will be torches walking down Main Street. You show these players, even if it's just a pre-stage stream, you show these players trying to do dungeon content, going for a world boss, and then you have a second team of, let's say, DA or some other fellow Phoenix Initiative members. They come into the raid and they destroy Steven right before he gets to that final raid boss, and that's where the stream ends. You don't get to see, I mean, just for a cliffhanger, actually, maybe that is good marketing. You know, Steven's about to finally get to this boss inside of the cave, and then you see DA come and gank him, and then we don't get to see the stream, and it ends right there. And they embed in your head risk versus reward, and that's why you didn't get to see this dungeon boss today, because DA killed me. How big of a message will that send to Care Bears that, hey, by the way, we're a PVX game, these open world dungeons will be contested? You guys just sit and think with that for a little while. But yeah, that's my talk.
That's a good point of view. I kind of forgot about that's funny, because when we had the discussion on caravans a few weeks ago, it was me, DA, and the other 4 nice individuals. We actually talked about specifically dungeons and side swiping in dungeon raids before the live stream started, and talked about how that was going to be a big deal, and how some people in there actually didn't want that to be a thing. They wanted to be closed off. Like when you go in, the door shuts behind you. Like people don't want to be side swiped. And so, yeah, that's a great point. And I completely forgot about it. So I agree with that too.
Nice.
Yeah, I think.
Did you want to get to something you said, DA said, and then we can close out from there?
Yeah. Did you want to comment on that, DA? Or what he said?
Oh, I was just going to agree with you guys. I think that those dungeons are going to be a real eye opener. I think the key to making those dungeons successful, though, give multiple floors, multiple levels. You know, have floors 1 through 10 is for leveling. You know, you go past 10 and it's higher leveling, but there's some dungeon bosses down there that higher end groups come in to complete, and then and get gear from. I think the dungeons also need to be a plateau for kind of how you sparse out leveling. So like throughout the leveling process, the node kind of helps slow down that leveling process, because you're waiting on the node to get a higher level. And throughout that, you hit 20, you have to go get your level 20 gear set before you can start progressing. You hit 30, you have to go get your level 30 gear set. And those dungeon bosses are a great way to kind of section off those levels. Levels 5 through or 10 and below are for levels 20, so they can farm those different dungeon bosses on different levels. They have their rooms to play. If you've got your dungeon gear, you're in there maybe farming mobs to level. If you don't have your gear, you're going in there with your group, and that allows that PVX gameplay for people to just be down there for different reasons.
Sure.
Maybe your group of 8 can low man that boss, but that group of that group of 16 or 25 or whatever is going to come in a little bit later, and you can snake a boss off of them real quick, get your gear, and go back to leveling. That just offers just like so many different types of gameplay. So dungeons, I think, really have to have a lot of space for multiple groups with multiple objectives to play for them to be successful.
Yep.
Imagine focusing so hard on your rotation and your parse, and then PVX gets implemented. You're like, oh, I gotta click this, and then this, and then this. I gotta lay down these dots, and then some guy runs up on you, and now it's an actual player that's not gonna sit still in your AOEs. He runs up on you, and now your whole frame of thinking is different because it's PVX.
Or 5 rangers, target you because the aim ability isn't there. The snipe ability isn't aim, so they just target you, delete your tank, and well, you're done for, buddy. Boss is now raging around the room.
Yeah. But all right, we're gonna end it here. I appreciate you guys being here. Once again, shout out to DA of the Enveus Guild. Thank you for sitting here with us. We typically would probably go even longer than this. I think we're pretty you, Elsa, and I are pretty similar minded as far as approach to MMOs, having a PvP mindset, enjoying every aspect of MMOs, PvE, all of it, of course, but approaching it from a PvP mindset when we look at things in Ashes, which I don't see a lot of that in the community, or at least in the creator space. So this has been a really good talk. And once again, DA posted a Discord link. I will actually have that pinned in the comment section on YouTube after this VOD is up. So yeah, once again, thank you for being here. Yeah, I know we're still going, Ham. Once again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much to Is There No One Else? As always, this has been episode 35. Oh, Salman wants to know PvE servers win.
Never, never.
Varl says good stream. Thank you, buddy. There was one more thing. Oh well, I can't remember it. But oh yes, make sure you guys follow Else on Twitch. Make sure you got him on YouTube as well, myself as well. Thank you for everyone that liked the stream, subscribed, or followed on Twitch. I really appreciate you guys. He said ban that chatter. You know what? He's pushing it. He's that Sawman guy's pushing it. Once again, thank you guys so much for being here. And I'll try to get some timestamps on this stream either tonight or in the morning. Because yeah, just to make it convenient for you guys that watch later. Appreciate you guys and peace.
See you guys.